Yeah, so thanks a lot, and welcome to Mobify. I had a board meeting over there this morning, yoga here earlier. We got this great event now, and I'm teaching yoga again at 7:45 tomorrow morning. So lots of yoga at Mobify. So as a COO, my job is how. So we always start with why. We talk about lots of things that we want to accomplish, and then my job, working with my team, is how do we do that? And so I'm lucky. So one of the answers to how do I get to do so much is that it's integrated. So I'm COO of a company, but how we operate is with what I call supporting lines. And I'll walk you through what that model is. Essentially, Supporting Lines is a leadership institute now I've started to take some of the things that I've done over the years and to actually show other people how to do it. Because a lot of these things, a lot of these tactics we use as leaders, they are very teachable. And I agree with giving HR back to leaders and people that are managing the teams. We don't have to do it all from people and culture. So I used to work with this guy, and not this guy, he would have been funny, this guy. And so I'll tell you a story about this guy. So I had the smallest office, I think, ever when I was at CHC Helicopter. So it was a $1.6 billion company. I ran sales, and I had an office that literally was maybe these 9 people here. And so one day, this guy comes into my office, and I could tell that he's super pissed. Like you can tell, he's coming in, his hands are clenched, he's got some sweat on his brow, and he's clearly angry. And I'm trying to figure out what's he angry at? It turns out it was me. And I was like, that was surprising. We just had a bid review meeting, and he'd come in and he said, all he did is just looked at me and he said, "You can never do that again." And I was like, okay, so that's kind of crazy. What would be really awesome is if I knew what you were talking about, because I had no idea. And so what it turns out, long story short, in the spirit of 8 minutes, is that I apparently in the meeting had done the mass transgression of letting my sales rep, who first of all he didn't believe should be in the meetings with the CEO when we're reviewing bids, I let him speak, and then I let him disagree with me, and then we had an open debate, and he thought that was crazy. So he said, you can't do that. You can never let someone junior like that disrespect you. And I'm like, okay, so you're actually doing that to me as a vice president. You're commanding me how I should behave, and you're telling me I should control this other person. So it turns out that command and control actually has a very useful application, and it's this. Command and control in this, awesome. So let's say this guy's name is Bob, and we say to Bob, go get the hose, we've got a fire. And yeah, perfect. So there goes Bob. And Bob says, well, first we got to do is we got to go off-site, plan for 3 days, and figure out what hose we should use. Not going to work. This thing's burned to the ground. So command and control when there's an emergency and people are trained, incredible, perfect. But hopefully your company's not like that on a daily basis. So how's this guy doing? We talked earlier about engagement. And I have the same stats. The good news for Bob, it's actually gotten a little better. The 70% engagement level or disengagement level, it's only 69 now. So this guy here, he's doing a great job now. It's only 69% of North Americans are disengaged. It's 85% globally, and we live in a global economy. So this is when you see someone driving by you in a car and they're kind of freaking out for some minor traffic transgression, they might actually hate their job that they spend most of their time at. So they're coming home from work, they're already frustrated, it's affecting our whole society. So that same study actually gives us some clues on how we can engage people. And these are things that we've seen in other presentations tonight. This is not rocket science. So recognition, performance conversations, personal development, workplace relationships. I'm old enough and have been around the block, I get to make up my own. I'm sure there's research that shows this, but I know this is true, I don't need studies. People want to find meaning in their work. And we've all seen that, we all know that personally, and people want to get shit done. They want to actually achieve goals that are meaningful to them and to their teams. They want to feel like I spend more time here in this building than I do with my children. So wouldn't it be awesome if it actually was meaningful? So these first few things, 6 things is too many for me. I can't do 6 things, but I can do 2. So help people grow, achieve more goals. And that's really what the Supporting Lines model is about, is how do we actually give people tactics so that they can actually do this, and I don't have to be, I want to scale. I can't do the things we've done here, I can't do those in every company. The things that these great leaders are doing, they can't do them in every company. So we need everyone to be able to do this. So how do we do it? Well, I'm going to talk about the help people grow. If anyone wants to talk about goal setting, I could talk for a lot more than 8 minutes about that. But this is what we're talking about. This isn't about, I want someone to be better at their job. I want to engage someone in Mobify. So they're engaged in their work and they see that logo and they're just amazing. That's not what engagement is. You want them to be engaged in their work, not to me, not to this company. It's bigger than that. We want them to actually have their life improve. So when they work here, and this is in our orientation, I actually do our orientation on Supporting Lines. I talk to each employee about the fact that we want their life to improve while they're here. It's really important. So are they healthier? Are they wiser? So this servant leadership model is from 1971. I love saying that because I don't get the opportunity to a lot of times say that something's older than me, so this is good, especially around here. So that's awesome. Yeah, we're gonna improve people's lives, but again, you come back to the how. So how do we do it? Where do we start? It's kind of overwhelming. I remember the first time I read this, I actually put it back down, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with it. It's too much. So since then, we all are familiar with, in helping someone grow, personal development goals are a critical part. So how do we get to a personal development goal? So the first thing we want to do is set expectations. And so we look at goals. So goals are, our company's goals are what we would like people to achieve here. And our leadership principles are how. So how many people have worked with someone that was really good at achieving goals, but there was like a trail of wreckage behind them when they finished it? Sound familiar? So that doesn't work here. And similarly, that amazing coworker who's great to work with, but can't actually get their job done, that's a problem too, because they're letting the team down. So out of this, you want to set expectations, and then we go into performance conversations, 360s, things you've seen before. So who here does a performance conversation on a quarterly basis in their company? Put your hand up. Okay, so not that many. How many people in that performance conversation, they don't have a rating? Because while it sounds great to have a 4.4 out of 5, that is absolute bullshit. We don't know that. We put the decimal there to make it seem scientific, but how do I know? It's so full of bias, it's not the right thing. What we're looking for is development goals. That's the outcome. We have no ratings. We talk about it, but you don't have to agree with your manager. It's about creating awareness. The other piece here is something I call the vision conversation, and so this is something that's worked really, really well. So I'll ask you this question. In 10 years, you're going to be interviewed on your favorite podcast or your favorite article, your favorite, some sort of journal, something like that. They're going to introduce you and they're going to highlight your #1 career accomplishment or life accomplishment. So just think now, I'll give you 2 seconds because I'm well into my 8 minutes. What do you want it to be? And then think about what strength you would use to actually achieve that. And then think about a capability you'd like to work on so that you're actually working toward it. And then in this conversation, we bring it all the way back down to what are you going to work on this quarter for your own development that's tied to that vision. So we've talked about that a little bit here as well. And this is something that we use to operationalize it. And then once you have the development plan, we want to actually have people go do it. So this is the COO view of how you can actually help people grow. I do some outside work as well, and so one of the things I had, a client said to me recently, a person on their team, I trained them in how we do our performance conversations. And I said, how was it? And I was kind of like, okay, I hope they liked it. Like maybe they didn't. And this is what she said. This is a junior employee in the team. This approach to development changes what I think work is. And I've seen that as well. So this is not a photo, but let's pretend this is our director of finance. Current director of finance at Mobify is here because of this model. She knew our outgoing director of finance, who now has gone on. You talk about talent generation. And so that's what we did. We generated talent. Hussein down in the back is another person. We generated talent. But the key is that she had known him 2 years before and had actually interviewed him for an analyst role and didn't hire him. And then he's outgoing here as a very competent director of finance. And she said, whatever you did with him, I'm in. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about anything. She said, whatever happened with his development, I want that too. And she's now on her own development journey. So we talked about, I sit down with someone in orientation, and I'm saying to them, I want to make your life better. And so the testament that I would have to that is I would ask you, when people leave your company, and they will, like the retention, we're not going to keep everybody forever. So when people leave your company, is this the last message they put in Slack? Because this just happened 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to work with anyone who'd like to chat later. To talk to anybody about how we can change what work is. Because that's what we're doing at Mobify, and the great thing is it's all teachable. Thank you.